Hello and welcome to another episode of Drams Delivered. Welcome back to all the subscribers who have supported us along the way, and welcome to any new subscribers. This month we are very fortunate. We've got a really interesting distillery in front of us, and it's quite an unusual dram from the area, but yeah, very, very excited to try it. So what we've got this month is Benromach Peat Smoke. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Benromach Distillery, John?
Yes, so Benromach has quite an interesting history, and they've also just had a bit of a rebrand. So some of you might not actually recognise this bottle, even if you have tried Benromach before. They've been using these new bottles for, I think, just over a year now, but previously they had quite nice artistic looking bottles with sort of handwriting on them that said Benromach. So yeah, founded in 1898, so not that old, just over 100 years old as a distillery, and it has had quite a checkered history. Loads of different people have owned it over the years. It closed in 1983, which was a bad year for whiskey. Quite a lot of famous distilleries closed around about then. I think Brora was one.
Whiskey Loch,
the Whiskey Loch, yeah. Lots of our favourite distilleries closed around that time, and it was completely dormant, silent for about 11 years. Owned by Diageo, or DCL as they were known then during that time, and it was kind of stripped for parts really. There wasn't really anything left when Gordon MacPhail came along and bought it in 1993. So they've kind of had to rebuild the distillery from the inside out. Everything pretty much has been new. And they started producing in 1999, and in 2009 they put out Benromach 10-year-old, which is, a classic kind of dram. Yeah. So the reason this is quite unusual is this is actually a peated speyside. Very, very strange. A lot of people think that all speyside has to be really, really light, really, really easygoing. But once upon a time, all speyside would have been peated. Mm-hmm. That would have been the traditional style, and it's only because of technological advancements that we're able to have unpeated whiskey now today.
I think there was a coal shortage, wasn't there?
Yes,
so,
I think so.
Rather than drying the barley using coal, they had to use peat and speyside. So even like your famous distilleries, Macallan, etc. Like if you look Glenfiddich, if you look way back,
would have been smoky once upon a time.
They were peated. So this is actually kind of, as John was very nicely telling us, the history of Benromach there. It's a relatively new kind of producer, the way with the GNM, but this expression is actually kind of rolling back the years to what it used to be like in speyside. I'm excited to try this.
I think we should try a drop, shall we?
We should try a wee dram. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite a pale whiskey when you look at it in the glass and in the bottle. So this has been matured exclusively in first fill ex-bourbon casks. Yeah. Now, what does first fill mean, Matt?
First fill, well, it's when we that was a good one. You caught me off guard there.
Would you like a wee drop before
I needed to settle my nerves after that. Thank you very much. That looks great. So yeah, first fill. What it basically means is that the whiskey has been put into the cask for the first time. It's the first time that Scotch has been matured in that cask. So this has been exclusively matured in first fill bourbon casks. Benromach only ever use first fill casks, which is, I don't know any other distillery that only use first fill casks. That is quite an expense to do that. First fill casks come from, bourbon casks come from the States. So in 1909, I believe it was, or 1903. Was it 1909?
Oh, I can't remember.
It was one of the two.
You were alive back then anyway. You'll remember.
A bit foggy. But there was basically a law that was passed in the States that said that to be called bourbon, it needed to be put into a brand new American oak cask every time. And this was kind of to protect jobs, so that the guys who were making the casks would always have work making casks, and the distilleries that needed the casks would always have a constant stream of casks. So if we think about the bourbon industry, you've got Buffalo Trace, you've got Woodford Reserve, Jack Daniels to a certain extent. It's maybe not exactly bourbon, but it falls into that category. All these guys need to use brand new casks every single time they mature bourbon, and bourbon matures much quicker than Scotch due to the temperature fluctuations and the higher temperature. So as a result, you have this bourbon that's ready to go, but you have millions of these casks that are just can't be used in that industry anymore. So they'll all get shipped over to Scotland, and they normally cost about $100 per cask. And we then start maturing whiskey in those casks. But the important thing with first fill is that if you think of it like if we had 5 cups of boiling water in front of us and we dunked a tea bag in the first one for 10 minutes and then moved the tea bag along, what you'd find is the first one would have lots and lots of flavour in the cup, and as you go on it gets a little bit tired. And that kind of is the exact same that happens with casks and whiskey. So in terms of flavour profile, what are we looking for in first fill, John?
From first fill bourbon, I would expect a lot of vanilla, maybe some butterscotch, caramel, those kind of lovely, sweet, easygoing flavours. And in terms of colour, you're going to expect it to be quite pale, quite light, golden, you might say.
So this is one thing when we're tasting whiskey, it's really important to take your time and actually look at the colour before you even smell it. This is natural colour. There's no colouring being added, which some whiskies do sometimes have. If you have a look at our website, we have some FAQs about whiskey, and there's a little video about colouring which you can go and have a look at. But this is all natural colour. So all of this comes from the cask. So should we have a wee nose?
Let's have a wee try.
Oh. You've been nosing.
I've been nosing away. Yeah.
What did you get on the nose?
Yeah, plenty of vanilla. A little bit of smoke, but it's still quite gentle.
Still light, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not an overwhelming amount of smoke. It's quite well balanced.
It is there though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is there.
Just in the background. Let's have a taste.
Let's have a wee taste.
Creamy.
Really creamy.
Like creamy smoked vanilla cream.
I like it. I like it. It.
Don't know quite where I was going with that tasting note, but
it's like custard creams.
Smoked
custard creams.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. I don't think that's the official tasting notes, but that's our tasting notes.
No, maybe not.
But it is peated, and it's actually quite highly peated. I think it's 46 ppm.
Yeah, so the way that we measure how peaty something is in ppm, or parts per million. And the human nose is actually so sensitive that it can pick up, I think it's as low as something like 5 ppm when it comes to peat. Peat is very easy for us to pick up, or smoke is very easy for us to pick up when we smell something. So the phenolic level, the level of phenols in this is 42 parts per million. And even at that, at 42 parts per million, it tastes quite smoky.
So to put that into context, I mean, the likes of Islay whiskies, Lagavulins, Lafroigs and stuff, they tend to peat around 40, 50 parts per million. So it's up there with Islay whiskies in terms of peat, but I find it a bit more delicate than that. It doesn't have the medicinal kind of character. I'm not actually sure what peat Benromach used, but the peat on Islay is different to mainland peat as well. So I think there is a notable difference in the style of peat between the two.
I believe it is Highland.
Is it Highland peat?
Although exactly where in the Highlands they source their peat is not up for disclosure, I don't think. But yeah, as Matt was saying, where you source your peat from is going to have a massive effect on the flavour. If you think about peat, it's just plant and maybe a bit of animal matter that's been slowly being compacted down into the earth. So whatever the local sort of flora and maybe fauna of the area are, they're going to have a massive effect on the peat flavour profile. So on Islay, you're right next to the seaside, so you're going to have salt, you're going to have a bit of iodine from seaweed, things like that. In the Highlands, you're maybe not going to have that. You're maybe going to have perhaps heather, something like that. So you're going to have maybe a more
like a floral peat, isn't it?
A floral, lighter style of smoke, if you like. Yeah,
it's lovely. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, a cracking dram and a great release, I think, as well. Benromach fly under the radar of a lot of people, but looking at this bottle, there's nothing about it that I don't like. You've got parts per million. It's bottled at 46%. It's a good strength. There's all the info that you really need there.
Natural colour.
Natural colour.
Yeah, it's all good.
A great dram.
Yeah, I think that's a winner for me. Big fan of that. So
I would have to agree with you.
Let us know what you think of Benromach. If you'd like us to try more, this is peated Benromach. There is other Benromachs that are unpeated, and maybe finished in sherry casks as well that we can maybe dive into as well. So yeah, feel free to get in touch. Tell us what you thought about it. But I guess until next month.
Next month.
Yeah, cheers.
Sláinte.
Slán. Cheers.